Welcome back to the second half of our second class this weekend at SRV San Francisco, where a good dozen or 14 of us have enjoyed the deep teachings of Jnana Yoga, that is enjoyed in a way that's very beneficial, that is very helpful to us, and also a puja last night to celebrate Swami Brahmananda's birthday and also Swami Vivekananda's birthday on this 150th centenary year since his birth and appearance on earth, and also meals done in sacred atmosphere with mantra and blessing, and service of seva, that is in the ashram, being able to do some service for the gurus and people here. So it's all been a good combination of the four yogas. And in all of that, you might say, is a natural way of piercing through the appearance of things. This Prakasha Shakti we're talking about, before we leave this precious teaching of basically what is the three gunas, or another rendering, another way, tantric way, you might say, of treating the Vedantic three gunas. We can look at this final quote because it is the most famous of all Vedantic sayings, bar none. It's about the snake and the rope. A man was walking along, and at dusk, and it's getting dark and so forth, and he's walking along, and he comes upon a rope in the trail, and he thinks it's a snake, and he jumps in fear. It was never a snake. He superimposed snake on it, and in that way the basic teaching is everything is Brahman, but you're superimposing form on it. And because you're superimposing form on it, you fear it. You're not seeing the formless essence. So it's like one of the great analogies that Vedanta uses. There's others too, like mother of pearl in the shell. You think it's silver or something. And a horned hare. My favorite is the son of a barren woman, because it's so Mayic. Who are you? Oh, I'm the son of a barren woman. It's a real non sequitur in Maya, you see. And there's one in Hawaii we have, because the sailors, when they first got there, saw the obsidian shining on Diamond Head, and they thought it was diamonds. That's why it's called Diamond Head. So that was all false superimposition. They thought, well, we're rich. We found the mother lode. You see. And it was not the case at all. It was worthless up there, except for a historical landmark, Diamond Head. So here's this explanation here. Espying a snake one evening in the semi-darkness, a man reacted in abject fear, but upon closer inspection he saw that the illusory snake was merely a rope. Similarly, a man sees the universe where only Brahman exists. The power of obscuration, avarana, causes the mind to cover reality with the world. The power of distortion, vikshepa, makes him perceive the world as distinct from Brahman. But the penetrating power of Prakasha Shakti reveals all such superimpositions and projections to be unreal. Nice, huh? Basically, the three gunas, the three Maya Shaktis, and the snake and the rope story all kind of come together in terms of Brahman, the jiva, and the world, and how things get superimposed. So it's, and I only put this up not to go through the whole chart, but it's rather like this beautiful chart on non-transformation. These three quotes are very clear and lucid in their. Well, I don't think I have them here to read them from the chart. Basically, Swamiji says a kind of scientific Advaitism has been spreading throughout Europe ever since the theory of conservation of energy was discovered. But all that is parinama, evolution by real modification, as people think evolution is real, is really happening. As contrasted to aparinama, progressive manifestation by unreal superimposition. And that's, the Ajurveda Appavada Viveka trinity that you have to apply towards it to realize that all of this is just a projection and that Brahman never changes. You have to get out of this idea of the changing Maya, the changing world. Transformation. My kids are growing. I'm getting better. I'm getting worse. I'm diseased. I'm happy. I'm healthy. You have to transcend all of those dualities and get to a place where you know that Brahman is the only reality. Brahman Satya Jagad Mithya. Brahman is real, the world is not real. So you first hear that and you think, I have to reject the world. But on deeper contemplation, you find out Brahman, this world is Brahman. It's a manifestation of Brahman. So I'm superimposing so many things over it, separate things. And what's really why Father of Yoga and his system wants you to meditate on earth, and meditate on water, and meditate on fire, and meditate on air and ether. So you begin to connect these all back up in the mind. They're thoughts of the mind, right? If Lord Brahma, way up there at the top of the Trinity, wants to project a world, he's going to have to do it with a thought solidity. And the thought solidity will become earth in the illusion of evolution. And the thought liquidity in his mind will become water. There's no earth and water where he is. There's just Brahman. There's just light. He's in a causal state, like your dream state. There's no earth there, no water there. But there's intelligence there, but you're just not seeing it. Your own intelligence, in fact. So you have to see it and connect it to yourself and then become self-enlightened, self-realized. So all this false superimposition is Vedanta's way, is their position. This is their asana, philosophically. And he goes on to say it here nicely, because there are beings in India who take up a different asana, like Ramanuja or Madhva. Ramanuja says, Ramanuja's theory is that the bound soul has its perfection involved, and when its perfection evolves, it becomes free. Qualified non-dualism. But the Advaita declares that involution and evolution take place only in show. Both processes are in Maya, and so are apparent only. So everything you see going on in the world of name and form is a dream in Maya. Let's clarify that. Gaudapada says, all happenings taking place in relativity resemble the activities of a man running a race in a dream. So, a man running a race in a dream, has people waiting with water, and sees clouds go by, gets rained on, gets hungry, and eats, you see, along the way. When he wakes up, his stomach's still empty. He's not wet. And he never went anywhere. He never left his own bed. He's just laying there sleeping. So in that way, we never leave ourself. Remember yesterday I gave you that beautiful saying of Swamiji? The soul neither comes nor goes. Coming and going is all nonsense. Where's the time which the soul will come when all of time is in the soul? And where is the space from which a soul will come and to where it will go when all of space is in the soul? That's Advaita. That's their position. It's all in show. It's all appearance. It's all a dream. Row, row, row your boat. So if you're interested in the Advaita, in the Vedanta, then you're going to come across the Advaitic view in Vedanta. No doubt there's Ramanuja's view, and no doubt there's Madhva's view. God is separate from us, you see, and never the twain shall meet. But Advaita doesn't buy that. In fact, what Swamiji says, you start out by God is separate from me, and then you go, God is connected to me, or I'm connected to God, and then you say, I am God. And that's the 3 stages of philosophy. It's an evolution of your soul, so to speak. If the soul evolves at all. Look down here, he says, if it is, this is the evolution, less and less in the body and more in the mind. Man, the highest form, meaning manas, thought, the animal that thinks, not the animal that senses only. So he says if there is any evolution going on at all, it's in here. It's not in nature, it's not in the body, it's not in physics, it's not in any of that. That's all nonsense. The soul never comes and goes. So you eventually graduate to that higher state. Do you think Christ didn't know this? Do you think the Christians just didn't emphasize it? Christ, when he was talking to his regular soul, ordinary soul, he would say, pray to your Father in heaven. Sounds like he's a dualist. Like heaven is somewhere else and God is somewhere other than me. But he was talking to the Pharisees and other people who had more intelligence. Then he would say, I'm the vine and you're the branches. So that means you actually have a connection to God. God isn't just somewhere and then you're somewhere, but there's some strands connecting you. But when he's talking to John and Paul and George and Ringo, if they were there, when if he was talking to all the saints and seers and his devotees, then he would say, I and my Father are one. Or, who do you think that I am? Isn't that what Ramakrishna said to Girish Ghosh under the Kalpataru day? Who do you think I am? What do you think of this manifestation, Girish? And Girish, you're the avatar on earth. And everyone all of a sudden started weeping, and Ramakrishna put his hand on everyone and blessed them. These are all householders. And that's the Kalpataru day, and that's where we just got back from. 100,000 people were there with us. See? And so that wish-fulfilling tree day, they celebrate it every year on January 1st. That's their new year. Remembering the avatar and what he did in the 1800s to a bunch of householders who put them on samadhi. Different kinds of samadhi. Some wept and cried, some danced, some sat down on the spot, had visions of their chosen ideal. Their sadhana fructified. And each one to a man talked about it. Now, we just gave you gifts of the book yesterday to all those who are going to Mayavati called Ramakrishna as We Saw Him. And I signed them all and said, in honor of the Mayavati journey to the Himalayas. So you read in that what Swami Chaitananda has done, how he has gathered the words of each of those people who lived with Ramakrishna. He has another book called They Lived with God. And everyone liked that so much that he came out with the next one, God Lived with Them. So, very, very catchy titles, you see, that are galvanizing, that want to take you towards that kind of reading. You find out what the people thought about Ramakrishna. I mean, say, what did Gandhi say about Ramakrishna? To see Ramakrishna is to see God face to face. It's not just unknown people we're talking about. We have people of very high caliber in all walks of life who, when they came across Ramakrishna, were astounded. They felt like they were seeing God face to face. I mean, how long did it take for your Christ or your Buddha to get known? In centuries. Ramakrishna is known by 5 million people, known and worshipped by 5 million people within 200 years, or less. And he had just a handful of devotees in 1860s, 1870s, 1880s, just a handful of devotees. Keshab Chandra Sen was a great teacher in Bengal. Have any of you ever heard of Keshab Chandra Sen, except through Ramakrishna? So this is the musicians who go from town to town playing the most beautiful music anyone's ever heard. And only those who are there when they set up and play get to hear it. And then they go running and tell their friends, you should come and hear this lady Maria play. You see, you should come and hear these musicians. They're the greatest I've ever heard, you see. And then when their friends come, the musicians have already unset and gone away to the next village. That's the avatar. So these appearances of this divine incarnation are very precious. And you need to have the revelatory power to see him. Otherwise he'll look like an ordinary person to you. There was a great violinist, world famous, set up in the train station, I think in Baltimore, with a cap and a t-shirt on and played the most beautiful music. Did you hear about that? Most beautiful music, you see. And people walked by without listening to it. And the next night he was like playing to a sold-out audience who paid a couple $100 a ticket just to hear him on stage. And one little boy came up and listened for a second. His mother said, come away from there, that vagabond, begging in the streets, you see. Well, if Christ came and set up a soapbox on the sidewalk and started preaching among Christians, they'd think he was crazy. They wouldn't recognize him. So this appearance of things, you need to tear it away. You see, that's the revelatory power of Prakasha Shakti. You need to man yourself with it. Arm yourself to the teeth to get rid of those false superimpositions. Vivarta, adhyasa, two Sanskrit words for it. So, all happenings taking place in relativity resemble the activities of a man running a race in a dream. Nothing actually transpires. Scenery, movements, race, dream, all are unreal or apparent only. The dreamer alone is real, but he must awaken to realize this. If you ever had that happen to you, that you're having a dream and you said, this is silly, I'm having a dream, I think I'll wake up. So you're having a moment of the witness come through you. You need to master that, you see. From dreams awake, from bonds be free. Know the truth, thou art he, thou art she. As my teacher used to put it. Or the Upanishad, Vaditasta Jagrata. You see, arise, awake, stop not till the goal is reached. And for us, for Shiva, we're sitting in one place and all is Brahman, all is reality. We don't need to go anywhere to prove it. Anything that comes towards us that veils it is just stripped away with our own head, you see, with our own mind. That's real spiritual practice. The realization is based on that, not on asanas and breathing exercises and things that purify or prepare you. And the seers come down from that position, and that's why they never have to do spiritual practice, unless it's as an example to us to do it. They already realized. That's the term past master. Not just a master who got masterful in this lifetime, but a past master. Krishna says, the unreal has no existence, the real never ceases to be. The truth about both of these has been realized by the seers. Coming into being and ceasing to be do not take place in the Atman. It is unborn, eternal, constant, and timeless. Vivekananda, now, Krishna, thousands of years BC, saying the same thing really. I just quoted you. Coming and going is all nonsense, right? Coming into being and ceasing to be do not take place in the Atman. And the Atman is who you are. You're not the ego, you're not the cosmic mind, you're not the buddhi, you're not the thoughts, you're not the fourfold mind, you're not the elements, you're not the senses, none of that is you. That's your projection. Not the body, not the birth, not ether, fire, air, or earth. As one poet said it, whom I won't name. So these are beautiful quotes. If you just want to take a look at this chart, these are all names for the supreme reality, and here's Om. You see the dividing line. As soon as you get to Om, that's the porthole into form. In the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God. All of a sudden, it breaks into form, and there you have Maya and unmanifested nature. All of a sudden. Parinama, apparent transformation. Aparinama, non-transformation. Brahman never changes. The world appears to change all the time. But it is nothing other than Brahman either, so it never changes. If you look at a vibrating particle that changes in a billionth of a second, can you really tell that it's changing? If you ever meet a subatomic particle on the road, tell it, get a life, because a billionth of a second is not very long to live.
Make yourself scarce.
It already has. Now, if you come down from Om, you see, he says, through knowledge, though knowledge being a compound cannot be the absolute itself, it is the nearest approach to it, and higher than will or desire. So the next thing this reality is pure intelligence, direct perception, sacred wisdom from the scriptures, and insight. That's all the realm of intelligence. And if you hone your own intelligence by words from the Guru, by study of the scriptures, and by your own direct experience, the three great proofs of truth, then you're in this level of pure intelligence. Notice what they call it, sattva, revelatory power. It can penetrate through anything. Truth is better, but sattva is what you want until you can get truth. Balance. You want balance. Peace of mind, if you want to call it that. Buddhists call it upeksha, equanimity. Tantras, call it stability, shiva. Sthiti pragnasya by Krishna in the Gita, steady wisdom. No matter where you look, who's speaking, what scripture, what seer, they're always proclaiming this sattvic springboard that you must maintain. It's your training ground, it's your default zone. You should never fall below it. And as long as you can hold it, you will get the light of sattva, and the light of sattva will turn into the light of intelligence, and the light of intelligence will turn into the Word. And guess what? The Word was with God first, and then it was God second. So you will then merge the Word into God. That's why Rama and Krishna and Shiva and Brahma all have the Om sign on their hand, because they're saying to you, this is the last form you will see. Have no hope for the world for me forevermore. I'm gone and gone forever if I go through the Om. There's no reason to come back. If you fall lower than that, then you get to mind and will, he says. The divine first becomes knowledge, then in the second degree, that of will. That's intuition, sense of separate I, self-irrigating thought, secular intelligence. That's that realm of thinking mind. And then if you fall to, that's rajas, by the way. And if you fall into tamas, then you've sense knowledge only, sense perception, feelings, sensations, emotions from contact with objects, desires based in your past experiences. Those are all links to rebirth, nidanas. If you look at the 12 Buddhist nidanas, these describe them to a T. Those bring you back into the body. Trishna, thirst for them. Throw that in there. So he says there, and we already read it, if it is, this is the evolution. Less and less in the body and more in the mind. Man, the highest form of all, meaning manas. Remember manasasana? Thought, the animal that thinks, not the animal that senses only. So this is why the animals can't realize God. They don't have the brain for it. They don't have the intelligence. They don't have the medium for it yet, the mechanism. Does an animal evolve into a man, or evolve into a man? Some say yes, some say no. I was with Kala Rinpoche once, great Tibetan teacher, and he said, when I was a boy I had farm animals. I was very good to them, fed them, petted them, loved them. Now I'm an old man, I think some of these students that are coming back to me are those same farm animals that I was so good to. Now they've been born in a human body. That's why I say some think in that terms and some don't. There's no doubting that if you look in an animal's eyes, there's some sort of soul there, right? There's something there. So we might as well access if they can become human. Why perplex ourselves whether or not it's true? Let's just act and be compassionate to them and act as if they could grow, they could evolve. But remember, the evolution is all in show. It's all in appearance. Coming and going is all mere nonsense. Taking on the form of a monkey or a form of an ape or the form of a paramecium, it's all nonsense. You were never those things. My teacher said, they're trying to convince you that to see your relatives you have to go to the zoo. But where are Swami Sheshananda's relatives? Good, pious humans. And where do they come from? Good ancestors. And where do they come from? The gods and the goddesses. And the gods and goddesses are worshipping the Trinity. So what about that level of consciousness? Is science going to discount all that? Are you going to believe in evolution and not involution? Or is your involution going to be one of matter only? Man that, that senses only and doesn't think. Involution to us is of a spiritual type. Involution to the sciences is that, the Big Bang happens and then everything, gets far-flung and dissipates, and that's it. 4,320,000,000 years ending in nothing. But, the T-shirt says, of one of my favorite physicist friends who's Vedantic, who used to be a monk, and Ramakrishna Swami says, nothing doesn't exist. That's his mantra as a physicist. Nothing doesn't exist. There is no such thing as nothing. The real question is, what is that something? You've got that special something. Is that just emotions? See, and all that? Oh baby, come on, I love you? Or is that, I love God in you? One of Ramakrishna's disciples, who is rather arrogant and trying to pose as a teacher, said to him, you only love those boys, you see. It's a selfish love. You're attached to them. And Ramakrishna went to Mother Kali and asked her, he said that I don't love these boys really. And Mother Kali told him, that's not true. You see God in them. That's true love. You're not attached to their bodies. So he went back and said, you rascal, you made me doubt myself. How dare you? See, Mother told me those boys, I love those boys for the Atman in them, not for the sake of their bodies. So, beautiful outlay that I took from Swami Vivekananda's letters. I had to cull all this out, from different letters he wrote to put it together in this kind of form. He says here, Gaudapada says, so long as these upadis, that is body, energy, mind, and so forth, are present, the jivas, which is embodied beings, retain their individuation. But the Paramatman undergoes no change due to these superimpositions. As the clay pot is not a transformation of the unchanging akasha, that's ether, so too the jiva is not a transformation of the immutable Paramatman, who had these changes projected upon it by ignorant minds. Yes, to understand Gaudapada is a bit abstruse. You'll have to study his karaka. We give retreats once every couple of years on that karaka alone. So you should come to one of those retreats and you get the real depth of the Advaita there, the non-dualism. Now, I wanted to bring that chart up in accordance with those final slokas, and also in the remaining half hour or so wanted to show you this in accordance with the last sloka. That's called the meaning of objects. I might have shown it here in San Francisco once already. Not sure because I show these in 3 or 4 different places, but I forget where I've shown which one sometimes. But I'm bringing this up in this last sloka. He says, salutations to the divinity who is in fire, who is in water, who is in plants, and who is in trees. All right, so we can't say that God's a tree. Sorry. God is formless, right? You can't contradict the Advaita philosophy once you've taken it as your own. So he's not saying that God's the tree and God's water and God's fire. He's in the fire. He's in the tree. And yesterday I told you Dalai Lama's way of explaining that is there's the tree that you see. That's the illusion tree. The real tree is swirling particles, right? Science has been our friend, whereas theology isn't always the Vedanta's friend, because they're believing in silly things, taking things too literally instead of symbology. But so science is more the Vedanta's friend, is that at least it's beginning to show up the unreal nature of things, although they haven't put their conclusion on it yet. See? They wouldn't be physicists if they did. See? People are saying, oh, this is where religion and physics can come together, and I'm saying, don't hold your breath, as they say. Because as long as they call themselves physicists, they're not going to acknowledge prana. Man does not live by bread alone. And they're not going to acknowledge the subtle world inside. The heavens, the ancestors, the gods and goddesses, and all that. It's far-flung. They're not going to entertain those ideas because they are physicists. Physics is their law. But, as Dalai Lama says, at least we know that the tree is not really the tree. If you really take it apart and look at it under an electron microscope and so forth, you see that it's swirling particles. Then Dalai Lama goes on to say, and beyond the appearance tree and the real tree, which is swirling particles, there's the Buddha nature tree. So he takes us even further. It's almost like saying the gross, the subtle, the causal again, isn't it? The A, U, the M, the waking, the dreaming, the deep sleep, all those triputis come here too, in the immanent, the subtle and the transcendent. In the apparent tree, the real tree, and the Buddha nature tree. The Buddha nature tree is its treeness. Vivekananda used to say, I don't have a lot to give you in this world, but what I can give you is the goldness of gold, the silverness of silver, the manness of man, and the womanliness of women. So he's talking about an essence, not the forms, the names, and everything that's associated with them. The essence he can give you of all of those things. Beautiful, isn't it? I can give you the goldness of gold, the meaning of gold, you see, the silverness of silver, and the manliness in man, and the womanliness in woman. I can give you that. That's what I have to give you here. I'm a poor sannyasin without anything. But I can give you that, you see. So when he says, who is in water, who is in plants, who is in trees, then I thought that, along with Dalai Lama's teaching that I heard once, would be nice in a chart form. And since there were no really quotes on it, I had to compose one myself. It goes, most beings beholding physical objects such as trees, animals, planets, etc., assume them to be real or actual. However, modern science has uncovered the atomic particle tree. Philosophy teaches about the illusory tree, its display being only an appearance. The luminaries going deeper speak of the Atman tree or Buddha nature tree. Thus, there are three levels of existence, the external, the internal, and the absolute. Knowing about this triple subdivision, along with the nature of each, the human mind espies truth about all manifestation and swiftly frees itself from the bondage of objects. Get yourself up and out of Maya as quick as you can, like a woman with a baby in a house on fire. You're not going to sit down and make an escape plan, you see. You're going to kick the wall down if you can. You've got precious cargo. In the same way, you have an Atman here that's precious, and you don't want to lose track of it. You'll never lose it, but you'll lose memory of it. And it can happen for lifetimes if it becomes a habit. That's why he says people think the world is real, that it's actual, but that's all parinama. That's all Mayic show. That's all Avarana and Vikshepa Shakti in conjunction with one another. It's all tamas and rajas. It's the appearance of things. But the reality is the unchanging nature that's underlying everything. It's not the tree, it's not water, and it's not fire, but it's the substratum for those. A dancer needs a stage. So none of this could exist without that foundation, which is Brahman, which is unmoving, which is indivisible, which is eternal, which is all-pervasive. Because it's all-pervasive, it's in all the tree and everything, but it's not the tree. So as mature Vedantas, when you hear all this Brahman, you're very careful not to abandon your discrimination for some half-baked, premature, all is Brahman bliss, you see. You're very specific, and you watch very carefully, because you're stripping away the appearances of things, even in philosophy. There's a Prakasha Shakti that works in philosophy just as well and just as valuable as it's working out there in the world for you. Like seeing the difference between an evil influence and a good influence. Is that person really my friend? Someone was talking about that yesterday. When I started being serious about sadhana, a lot of my friends fell away. Well, Vivekananda said, save me from my friends. You know, if those are my kind of friends, save me from them, Mother. Oh, you need to meet the right kind of people, Swamiji, they told him. He came here, he says, what are the right kind of people? So, in this quote, you see a sort of outline of the chart too. There's the atomic particle tree. This is a nice image I got from Ramanand Tiwari in India, and he gave me permission to use it. There's atomic particle tree, and then you see the solidified appearance tree. So this would be called the illusory tree or appearance tree. The real tree is really particles. You know, the question there for most people would be, what's holding those particles together? And the New Agers on one side would say, love. And the scientists would say, we reserve our opinion. And then the scientist is a little bit more, what's a good word, enterprising, taking a little bit more risk like Einstein did when he declared he believed in God as a scientist. They're going to say something like, it's Gaia. I'm going to call that force Gaia. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm going to give it a name. Gaia is really a name for Mother. Divine Mother, Shakti. So whatever way you describe it, in whichever way, whatever is holding the particles together, the Vedantists would say, it's the mind. The whole universe is mind made manifest. Objects are thought concretized. And I tried to explain a little bit about that yesterday when the book started out in your mind first, or the chart started out in your mind first, and then you thought about it, and then you manifested it. Why should that be any different at the level of the cosmic trinity? That they would think about something first and then manifest it. It's true all the way down to this physical object. So why can't we put that together and think about that, you see? It's all a manifestation of my mind. So what's holding this world together? My mind is. In conjunction with the collective mind, and in conjunction with the cosmic mind, which is the first sloka we read today. And if you don't believe it, go into deep sleep tonight and just watch how you tear the universe apart. It's not there anymore. And if you're in a coma, it's not there. And if you die, it's not there. So there are 4 times when you have a chance to realize the formless. Deep sleep, death, a good meditation, and samadhi. And I would say don't wait for death to find out that the universe is unreal. Do that now, while you're young. Teach it to your children. In the 60s they sing, teach your children well. You see. And then you find these same people singing in nightclubs and drinking booze in their 40s and 50s and 60s. What happened to their spiritual discrimination? What happened to their high ideals? I ask you. It was all well and good back there when you were young, but did you keep the standard through your whole life? Or did you smoke it away? Or drink it away? And now you don't know the truth from a hole in the ground. Or a real tree from an appearance tree. Or even further, a real tree from Buddha nature tree. That's real knowledge. So what keeps the particles together? Your own mind does that, and it also diffuses them in those 4 cases. Deep sleep, death, meditation, samadhi. In samadhi, it goes away forever. I am, my Father are one. That's the supreme bliss, that's the supreme existence, that's the supreme wisdom. Sat Chit Ananda. And it's Akhandananda. Akhanda Satchitananda. It's indivisible. It's eternal. It cannot be taken back. It doesn't come and go. That's all nonsense in my mind. So the mind is very powerful in holding together things, to creating things, to inventing things, to projecting things. It should also get very good at dissolving them again while it lives in the body. Don't just worship Vishnu. Learn what Brahma means and then apply Shiva to your life. Everyone likes preservation and long-lasting, you see. Chewy, chewy Tootsie Roll lasts a long time, you see. Everyone likes that. But what about when it's over? You have to go borrow another nickel from your father to get another chewy, chewy Tootsie Roll. So what about that which lies beyond preservation and destruction and creation? That Supreme Brahman, which is in our sloka. Beyond this immanent is the transcendent, and they worship that and they meditate upon that and they become one with that. The knowers of Brahman are Brahman. Right out of the Upanishads. That's more on the level of the Buddha nature tree or the essence tree. So next time you look at anything, air, earth, fire, water, and ether, anything made of the 5 elements, or bodies, whether they be planetary or human, see through them. Look through them. Probably the first thing you see is life force flowing along nadis. If you're a doctor and a surgeon and you use x-rays, you'll see it flowing along physical nerves. But if you're a metaphysician and not just a physician, or an aspiring yogi, you'll look and see this life force operating everything. Oh, prana is moving that man's arm. See? Prana just made me blink without knowing it. But they say, a woman enters the woods. The wolf thinks, flesh to eat. The worldly man thinks, beauty to ravish. The monk thinks, an otherwise dead corpse, animated by prana, has just walked into the woods. An otherwise dead corpse. See? We're all dead already. That's the real meaning of death. There is nothing living here. Look to life force and you'll find that which man does not live by bread alone on. You see. Christ was looking at your energy, your subtle energy. He was looking at your mind, he was looking at your intelligence, and finally looking at your soul. And he was stripping away all the coverings with his discrimination, with his power of Prakasha Shakti. That's why he could say, go and sin no more. Or you, who are free of sin, you cast the first stone. That's why he could see everyone as the Atman, the Christ consciousness, the Buddha nature, Allah. Now, there it is again, and still another form, the ladder. You see, we saw it in the 24 Cosmic Principles, we saw it in Swamiji's Parinama to Parinama. Here it is again. Solid objects to gross elements to gross senses to thought objects. This is where, we depart the realm of physics or physical things. Thought objects, then subtle elements, the power of the eye to see, the power of the ear to hear, the power of the tongue to taste are different than the eye, ear, and tongue. There's a power in us. Subtle senses, projected worlds, thought concept, ego-mind complex, intelligence, cosmic awareness, which is Lord Brahma, and Om. And beyond that, the Supreme Brahman. And this is gross prana here, and this is psychic prana here, and this is Chit Shakti. You see how the prana turns into a more dynamic principle as it goes closer to the source. Just as heat is more intense right near the sun and gets less intense as it flows out into space, you see, that's all evolution, that's all moving away from the source. But the sun of your own intelligence, as you get closer to it, gets more and more intensified, you see. The base gross prana that's digesting your waste and excreting your waste and causing your lungs to breathe in and out turns into a psychic prana that's causing your mind to think and to not think, to wake and to sleep, to go through these different apparent transformations. And then finally turns into Chit Shakti herself. Even the father of yoga mentioned her, and he's not into making you believe in God. He called her Chit Shakti. He left room for her. The most subtle mother, Divine Mother we call her. So, yes, we're talking about the external, the internal, and the transcendent. Another fine triputi here. At the bottom there is another quote, but really, before we get to that, and we have just enough time for it, what is the real meaning of objects? The seers tell us here, these are the yogic rules pertaining to objects. 1, objects are empty. 2, objects are mental projections. Those are the 2 basic rules in Vedanta. When we say objects are empty, what do we mean? Empty of abiding substance. Vibrating particles, if you want to say it that way. How about empty of the ability to fulfill you? Now we leave the realm of science into the realm of psychology. That is that which works with desires, and that which works with longing, and that which works with will and all of that. You see, they are empty of the ability to fulfill you. So you have the scientific view and you have the Buddhist view, basically. That is, your object will get stolen, it will get broken, it will decay, it will become boring. The object is totally incapable to fulfill you in any way. So you shouldn't own it, you shouldn't possess it. The best you can do is just be a custodian to it, take care of it. But better than that would be to say it's just empty, it's really not there. And Prakasha Shakti is telling me that, but if I rely on Avarana Shakti and Vikshepa Shakti, it's tactile, you see. I can feel it, I want this. That's feelings, you see. And now I'm attached to it. That's emotions. You see. And now it gets torn away from me. And that's not detachment. That's not the way you want to learn detachment. That's the worst way, you see. That's depression. That's disappointment. That's dashed expectation, and that's hope. We were talking about hope yesterday, you see. And then you're left with that. I hope I get it again. I hope my boredom passes. I hope that thief doesn't come around anymore. I hope decay isn't one of the 6 transformations. It's just implausible thinking. So those rules are precious, you see, those 2, A and B. Objects are empty of abiding substance, and they're empty of the ability to fulfill. Give them up. This is why Christ told the rich man, give up all your riches and follow me. I want to follow you, Lord. Go home and give your riches away. He went home and he got caught up in them. Couldn't follow Christ. You had to be a sannyasin to follow Christ. You had to give up everything. What to speak of possessions? You had to give up family. What are family but vipers in a pit called the world? Who said that? Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. The world is a huge pit and your relatives are vipers inside. Your ancestors want you back. Come, join the party. It's called rebirth in ignorance. We're ribbing you. Rebirth in ignorance. R-I-B. Come, partake of Adam's rib. Be born out of my flesh. You see. Enjoy my and suffer my karma. But beyond the ancestors are this whole pantheon of divine beings, and beyond them are the Trinity, and beyond the Trinity is the Word, and beyond the Word is the Supreme Brahman. And that's my true nature. And thou art that. Now the second rule there, all objects are mental projections. Under that are 2 points too, to finish this up. under that rule that all objects are mental projections, A is they're all solidified thought. Come to think of it that way. They don't evolve over millions and millions and millions and billions of years. They're in your mind before evolution starts. They're in the great mind. Just like I said, Earth is in Brahma's mind as solidity, as the idea solidity. And that's how he will make everything solid from vibrating particles. He'll congeal. And his congealing power is such that he can congeal on those 7 different levels, the 7 worlds. And one is transcendent, and one is internal, and one is external. Or one is causal, one is subtle, and one is gross. Think farther away a thing gets from the source, the more impure it becomes. The word impure in Vedanta doesn't mean corrupt, evil. It means far from the source. That's why Christ didn't condemn anyone. Oh, you've just gotten far from the source. Come close. See, come close to the fire. Burn away that numbness of ignorance. But it hurts. It's prickling. It'll pass. You warm up your hands numb over a fire, they prickle, right? Like pin pricks. So you feel a little discomfort at first when you get out of the company of evil and worldly beings and you get into the company of holy beings. See? Like someone said to me, you know, I don't go to the bar anymore with my friends since I found Vedanta. Great. There's some progress at least. I mean, shouldn't have ever gone to the bar in the first place, but, you know, I'm glad to hear about this as your spiritual teacher. Now show me some real progress. I should have never been addicted to anything because Babaji taught me the rules of objects. So they're all solidified thought. They're your own projection. Vedanta is very clear on that. It's a gift from Lord Vashishta in the Vashishta's Yoga, very ancient Rishi, one of the 10 mind-born sons of Lord Brahma. You saw him in that pantheon up there probably. And he gave us this idea that the universe is just mind made manifest, that everything comes from the mind. The mind is the creator. Things can't exist on their own. Nothing doesn't exist. There has to be something. And there has to be a cause and an effect. And that cause is the effect of another cause. And that cause is the effect of another cause. Until finally you come back to the causeless. That's why they call the word, in my tradition, the unstruck sound. And they call Brahman the unseen seer. And they call Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva inactive agents. See the beauty of the dichotomies? Inactive agent, unstruck sound, unseen seer. Have to use those kinds of dichotomies to describe the indescribable, so that the mind will understand as far as words can tell, before it has to abandon words and thoughts and concepts, and rely on its own intelligence, which is shining off of the word Om. So, solidified thought. Basically, if I looked at this world, and I've had this realization myself, that this world is intelligence. It's not atomic particles. To me, it's not Brahman yet, but it's definitely not matter. To me, it's all intelligence when I'm in my ordinary state of mind. My ordinary state of mind isn't the state of an ordinary person either. So I see everything as intelligence. When I'm eating my food, I see it as intelligence. I've actually had the experience of seeing my food as intelligence. Somebody sent me an email yesterday. One of our students' relatives has had a baby, and she wrote in a little email and said, "Oh, good! Now I can see the live stream while I'm nursing." So she can watch the classes while she's nursing a baby. And so the title of the email was Wisdom Feed. I liked it. See? Wisdom Feed. So she's getting the wisdom of the Vedanta through the classes, and the baby's getting it vicariously through the prana, connection. So I like that. I didn't say anything. I hope I didn't step on anyone's toes. The second rule here, all objects are mental projections. B, are not created out of nothing, and they're not created by God. Sternolern, you see. They're not created out of nothing, and they're not created by God. Two things that probably we've never thought of, because we always think of God's creation, right? But where did he get it? Out of nothing? Did we come out of dust? Can you create a soul? You can't create a soul. A soul is eternal perfection. A soul is light. A soul is deathless. A soul is birthless. So he didn't create us. He didn't create anything. In my tradition, God is not a creator. Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva are projecting using sattva, rajas, and tamas. And it's all appearance. It's all dream life. That's my way of thinking, given to me by the great seers of India. When I heard that, I knew my problems were over. See, my doubts were solved. And I could live a divine life the way I wanted to without obstructions. So, nothing's created by God. Vivekananda's quote here is, God is a create. Doesn't create. Some far-flung portion of him called the Trinity projects things through Maya. But if I follow the rule of thumb that nothing ever changes, that Brahman can't change, then how can he change himself into a creator when he's a create? Can a tiger really change his stripes? And the word creation is suspect itself. We use the word projection. In fact, the early Vedantic teachings here in the West, Brahma is the creator, Vishnu is the sustainer, and Shiva is the destroyer. But when you use those terms, aren't you sort of contradicting the statement that they're birthless and deathlessness? How can you create something that's never born, and how can you destroy something that's eternal? See? So really better to say, in Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva's case, that they're projecting, sustaining, and withdrawing. And the best analogy for that is waves on an ocean. They come up, they rise, the Buddhists say, and then they fall. They come up, they live a little while, and then they fall. That's all. And the ocean never changes. It's all appearance. And how many trillions of waves are there each second? Are you going to perplex yourself about it? Or are you going to say, oh, look, at that one got created. Oh, wait a second. No, that one got created. Oh, that one got destroyed. Impossible. Just say they're rising and they're falling eternally. You see? And where's the harm in that? If you concentrate on the ocean surface, Swami Sheshananda said, you get tossed. But if you concentrate on the ocean's depths, there's nothing but peace, peace, peace. So as far as the Vedanta is concerned, or the spiritual aspirant takes his attention off of the surface of things and looks at the depths and identifies with the depths, therefore he's never born and he never dies. He is the ocean, right at the heart. And this fuels the meditation of those who haven't yet realized that. So you hear these ennobling thoughts and you get inspired and you set your foot on the path. And you want to become that. And in the process of thinking, I will become, you've already let the ideal down, isn't it? Because you are that. So how, you see? How can I enter into any kind of sadhana without breaching the laws of Advaita? Can I adopt a mental asana that is non-dual before I even start practicing? As I said, the seers come inside out. And most beings are born outside, believe in the outside, and start to work their way in. Only a few do. Krishna says, of billions of souls that are born, only one gets a yearning for truth. And of a million of those souls that get a yearning for truth, only one actually starts to practice. And of those thousands of souls that start to practice, only one achieves the goal. Well, here you are, a dozen people, right here, you see. Are you a dozen of those 1,000 that will achieve the goal? And that goal will be closer and dearer to your heart if you think right now, I am Atma Brahma, this self is Brahman. Objects are empty, they can't fulfill me. Objects are projections of my own mind, therefore they're my responsibility, not anyone else's. And objects are my own thought solidified, and objects are not created out of nothing. It came from a cause, and the cause is inside me. And that cause is not God, because God cannot be the cause of anything. It's the causeless cause. Unseen seer, inactive agent, unstruck sound, and causeless cause. Even the remote cause is responsible for something. That's Om. We call Om the remote cause. See, way, 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 way back inside is the word. At a very high level. So to get to Om, you have to abandon form. And so Vivekananda and others say the best meditation of all is meditation on Om. Just Om. If you don't have a teacher yet, just get Om and concentrate on it. If you haven't read the scriptures yet, just take Om as your mantra. The word. Because it implies so much on both sides of it. There's the infinity of Om from Brahman on down, Lord Brahma on down. There's the affinity of Om from the word on into the Supreme Brahman. Purnamadaha, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamadachate. It's all infinite no matter which way you go. So, whatever way you go, keep that word at the very center of your being. Because that will call back to memory everything that's divine in you. Everything that's eternal. Everything that has to do with aparinama, non-transformation, and birthlessness and deathlessness of your true nature. And it will eschew and reject and disintegrate on the spot everything that's problematic, everything that's confusing, everything that's troubling you, everything that's causing you to brood, which is the worst waste of time in the world. Give up the habit of brooding and engender the habit of concentration on the lotus feet of the Lord. Be like those who sing. Jaya Sadguru Ishvara Prabhakahe Bhavaroga Vikara Vinashakahe Manayena Rahitava Shri Charane Gurudeva Dayakara Dina Jane. Om Sato, Om Sato Ma Sadgamaya, Tamaso Ma Joytir Gamaya, Mrityam Ma Amritam Gamaya, Abira Abira Mayeti, Rudrayate Dakshinamukam, Tenamam Pahinicham, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead us from darkness to light, from lower truth to higher truth, from the unreal to the real, from the illusion of death to eternal life. Reach us through and through, O Lord and Mother, with thy sweet and benign presence. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om.